So just imagine waking up tomorrow morning, staring at the ceiling and, looking at your life, like the relationships, the career you've spent the last 7 years just painstakingly building.
Right, yeah.
And suddenly, out of absolutely nowhere, you just feel this overwhelming, undeniable urge to bring it all down and start completely over.
Oh, totally. Which sounds terrifying, honestly.
Right. But the weird thing is you're not even angry. You're just awake. And no, it is not a midlife crisis. That is actually the exact cosmic weather hitting us this week.
It really is. I mean, it is the absolute definition of a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
We are looking at the astrological landscape for the week of April 27 to May 3, 2026. And we are not just tracking a passing shower here. We are tracking the tectonic plates of our lives completely realigning.
Exactly. So welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Our mission today is to really decode what is shaping up to be, frankly, one of the most intense electric weeks of the entire year.
Oh, without a doubt.
We are looking at this massive 7-year planetary shift, a really rapid-fire sequence of rare relationship alignments, and a highly potent full moon that is basically demanding a total life reset.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, whether you are someone who tracks every single planetary movement, or you're just sitting there wondering why the air feels so incredibly charged right now.
Static electricity, yeah.
Exactly. Understanding these underlying currents is just crucial. It's about equipping you to navigate some very real potential relationship tensions.
Oh, for sure.
And perhaps more importantly, some sudden personal insights that are just, well, they're going to demand your attention.
So let's just start with the biggest shockwave of them all. Uranus is radically shifting into Gemini. And to really grasp what that actually means, we kind of need to talk about where Uranus has been.
Right, exactly. So Uranus is the great awakener.
Right.
It's the planet of sudden change, revolution, and, that lightning bolt inspiration. And because of its massive 84-year orbit, it spends about 7 years in each zodiac sign.
Which is a really long time to sit in one type of energy.
It is. And for the past 7 years, Uranus has been slowly moving through Taurus.
Which is, of course, a fixed earth sign.
Mhm.
It's all about foundations, security, our resources, and just the material world in general.
Exactly. So putting Uranus, which is literally the planet of sudden electric upheaval,
Yeah.
into Taurus, the sign that absolutely hates change more than anything else in the zodiac, creates immense friction.
Oh, completely. It's like an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object.
Perfectly said.
Mm.
And for many of us, this 7-year period just felt heavy. It challenged the very ground we walk on.
Right.
It was a constant tension between wanting freedom and clinging desperately to security, which honestly often just leaves you feeling completely stuck.
Because lightning hitting mud doesn't exactly create forward momentum.
No, it really doesn't.
It just creates a huge mess. So if Uranus and Taurus was like trying to turn this heavy, sluggish freight train, Uranus and Gemini is like suddenly boarding a high-speed bullet train.
Oh, that is the perfect visualization, really.
Yeah.
Because Gemini is a mutable air sign. It governs communication, the mind, information, and our local networks.
So it's fast.
So fast. We are kicking off a brand new 7-year cycle where rapid changes in technology, artificial intelligence, digital currencies, and just the very ways we communicate with each other are going to accelerate exponentially.
Wow.
The resistance of the Earth is completely gone. The electricity is now moving through the air.
Okay, let's unpack this on a personal level, though.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about global tech shifts, which makes total sense. But what does this bullet train actually feel like for the listeners sitting at home, just, trying to get through their Tuesday?
Right, the day-to-day of it. Well, on an individual level, Uranus and Gemini brings these sudden mental awakenings. Gemini is naturally curious, right, and intensely adaptable.
Very much so.
So you might literally wake up one morning and enthusiastically embrace paths or ideas or even entire career pivots that you previously swore you never would. Yeah, it's very much the transit of, I would never do that. Wait, actually, that sounds amazing.
I mean, I love that energy. I really do.
Oh,
But I'm going to push back a little here because, let's be honest, change can be exhausting.
Oh, absolutely.
With all this sudden electric waking up energy and the sheer processing speed of Gemini, how do you avoid just short-circuiting from information overload?
That is the big question.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like trying to drink from a fire hose. You can't just upend your entire life every time you have a shiny new idea.
And that is the exact trap of this transit. You hit the nail on the head. The key here is adaptation rather than resistance. Think of this as the universe forcing an upgrade on your mental operating system.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Thanks. Yeah, if you try to run your old, slow, rigid Taurus software on this lightning-fast new Gemini hardware,
Oh, no.
yeah, your system will absolutely crash.
It's the spinning wheel of death, but for your brain.
Precisely. The spinning wheel of death. So the goal isn't to act impulsively on every single idea that flashes into your head. The goal is to allow the ideas to just flow without shutting them down out of fear.
Right, just observing them.
Exactly. You have to roll with these sudden flashes of inspiration, observe them, and let them stretch your concept of what is even possible rather than immediately saying, no, that's too risky.
Which makes total sense for how we process information, for sure.
Hmm.
But if Uranus is actively rewiring our brains and our capacity for sudden change, how is that electric shockwave going to affect the one area we're usually the most sensitive to?
You mean our personal relationships?
Exactly. Because Venus is walking right into that exact same Gemini energy this week, right?
Oh, yes, she is. Venus entering Gemini alongside Uranus kicks off what can really only be described as a relationship gauntlet.
A gauntlet. That sounds intense.
It is. Over the course of just a few days, Venus is making these rapid-fire connections with the outer planets. And the really fascinating mechanism here, and this is so cool, is that she is connecting with them in their exact natural order outward from the Earth.
Wait, really?
Yeah, first Uranus, then Neptune, then Pluto, and finally Saturn.
Oh, that is wild. It's literally a complete sequential journey of the mind, the heart, and the will. Let's walk through this because the mechanics of it is just fascinating. It starts with Uranus, right?
Right, so Venus connecting to Uranus in Gemini brings a sudden mental impulse. It's a flash of awareness regarding a relationship or a deep desire.
Okay, so it's very cerebral.
Very. You suddenly see a dynamic clearly, or maybe you have a brilliant, unconventional idea of what you actually want out of a partnership.
Wait, but right after that mental spark, you said Venus hits Neptune next.
Yes.
Neptune is the planet of boundless oceanic emotion and, well, illusion. Jumping straight from the high-speed mental spark of Uranus into the deep, messy, emotional waters of Neptune sounds incredibly jarring.
Oh, it is.
How does a person even process that kind of whiplash?
It is absolute whiplash, no question. It requires a massive gear shift. Uranus gives you the objective, detached realization, and then Neptune immediately drags you into profound subjective empathy.
So the energy just drops rapidly from the mind right into the heart.
Exactly. Neptune brings a sense of unity, compassion, and deep emotional bonding. You're no longer just analyzing the relationship from a distance, like with Uranus.
Right, you're actually in it.
You are deeply feeling the connection, sensing what the other person is experiencing on a literal soul level.
Oh, wow. And just when you're floating in that dreamy, empathetic Neptune space, Tuesday hits and Venus forms an exact trine with Pluto.
Boom!
So we go straight from the dream to the obsession.
We really do. Pluto is the will. It's raw passion, power, and transformation. And a trine is an angle of supreme, frictionless flow.
So it's easy energy.
Very easy, which makes it powerful. When Venus trines Pluto, this isn't light, breezy Gemini energy anymore. This brings a profound magnetic pull.
What a fated thing.
Exactly. It can feel like a totally fated or karmic connection. It's the willpower to completely transform an existing relationship or to attract something new that feels incredibly significant, undeniable, and, well, maybe even a little dangerous.
I mean, if the sequence just stopped right there, it would be
Yeah.
a beautiful, intense, chaotic mess.
It really would.
But it finishes with Saturn.
The anchor. Finally, Venus links to Saturn, which is the planet of stability, structure, authority, and time.
You know, looking at this entire four-step process, it's exactly like building a house.
Oh, I love that. How so?
Well, think about it. Uranus is that sudden lightning bolt architectural inspiration, like the vision that wakes you up at 3 in the morning.
Right, the big idea.
Yeah. And then Neptune is falling deeply in love with the blueprint, just imagining your future life unfolding in those rooms.
Getting swept away in the fantasy of it.
Exactly. Then Pluto is the raw, intense manpower and excavation required to actually dig the deep foundation into the earth.
Oh, that's so good.
And Saturn. Saturn is the crew finally arriving to pour the concrete so the house actually stands for decades.
That is a phenomenal way to look at it, because that sequence takes all of that wild transformational energy and just grounds it into a stable, lasting commitment.
Right.
Saturn looks at the passion and the vision and asks the ultimate grounding question. Okay, we feel all of this, but what are we actually going to build together in the real world?
Wow. But there's a hidden internal layer to this relationship energy this week too, isn't there? It's not just about who we are dating or interacting with externally. There's a geometry happening behind the scenes.
Yes, there's a very nuanced, quite rare aspect happening simultaneously. Venus is in a septile aspect with Mars.
Okay, let's break down what a septile actually is for the listener, because it's not exactly one of the major aspects people usually hear about.
No, it's not. A septile occurs when planets are separated by roughly 51.4 degrees, which is basically the 360-degree zodiac divided by 7.
Right.
Mathematically, it's an irrational number, which is so fitting because astrologically, a septile is considered highly karmic, slightly mysterious, and often points to fated events or spiritual imperatives.
So it's not just a standard conflict or harmony, it's a deeper push.
Exactly.
And because Venus represents the feminine archetype, like how we receive what we value,
Yeah.
our magnetic pull, and Mars represents the masculine, how we assert, how we take action, our drive, this septile is demanding something really specific.
It is a karmic demand to balance your own internal feminine and masculine energies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you cannot create external harmony if your internal masculine and feminine are fundamentally at war. If you are deeply passive and refuse to take action, which is rejecting your Mars, or if you are aggressively pushing forward and refusing to receive, which is rejecting your Venus, your external relationships are going to mirror that exact chaos right back to you.
That makes so much sense.
Right. This week provides a rare, almost mystical window to really harmonize that internal dynamic.
Wow. Okay, so we have electric mental upgrades, a 4-step relational transformation from the mind all the way to concrete reality, and a deep internal energy balancing act.
And all of this is just setting the stage for Friday.
Oh my gosh, the absolute climax of the week, Friday, May 1st, the full moon in Scorpio, which is also widely known as the flower moon.
Yes.
You know, looking at all the underlying tension between holding on and letting go this week, it actually reminds me of a biological process.
Ah.
Yeah, it's exactly like the human digestive system just mapped onto the cosmos.
Okay, that is a very striking, visceral way to understand the cosmic weather of this specific moon. Break down how that maps out.
Well, the week begins with the moon moving through Virgo, right?
Yeah.
And Virgo's energetic job is exactly like the small intestine.
Ah.
It analyzes, it sorts, it breaks things down, and it decides what nutrients are actually useful to the body.
Right, the sorting phase.
Exactly. Then, by Friday, the moon reaches Scorpio. Scorpio functions like the large intestine. Its entire evolutionary purpose is to take what is no longer needed, the waste, the toxins, the dead matter, and forcefully release it from the system.
I see where you're going with this.
And Taurus, on the other end of the axis where the sun is currently sitting, represents the mouth, the act of feeding, and accumulating resources.
So what we're experiencing this Friday is quite literally a cosmic digestive purge.
Exactly. It's time to emotionally and physically excrete the toxic elements, the dead-end habits, or the draining relationships that we've been stubbornly trying to digest, but that are actually just, poisoning us.
Wow. And we can see exactly why this purge is so intensely difficult by looking at the mechanical geometry of the chart, because we are dealing with a T-square.
Let's explain the mechanics of that T-square, because that is really the engine driving this entire purge, isn't it?
It is. Think of a T-square like a brutal three-way tug of war. On one side, you have the sun in Taurus, pulling hard towards security, physical comfort, and just holding on to what you already have.
The ultimate comfort zone.
Exactly. Directly opposite, pulling with equal force, is the full moon in Scorpio, which is demanding release, psychological depth, and total transformation.
So they are pulling directly against each other. Pure opposition.
Exactly. But then you have Pluto.
Oh, Pluto.
Right. Pluto is standing right in the middle at a 90-degree angle to both of them, just pulling them both sideways. All of that immense tension from the sun and the moon funnels directly into Pluto.
And Pluto is the planet of absolute death and rebirth.
Precisely. This configuration forces you to look directly at what you are hoarding out of sheer terror. Like, what grudges, what relationships, what outdated versions of yourself are you clinging to with that legendary Taurus stubbornness, simply because you are terrified of the Scorpio emptiness that comes immediately after you let go?
Oof. Because if you refuse to let the large intestine do its job, the body becomes toxic. That's the danger of a Scorpio full moon if you resist the purge. The energy doesn't just dissipate, right? It ferments.
It ferments. That is exactly it. And that fermentation leads straight to paranoia.
Oh, totally.
Scorpio energy, when it's resisted or operating at a lower frequency, very easily slips into the dramatic. You might feel overly intense, suspicious of everyone's motives, or just slip entirely into a victim mindset, blaming everyone else for the toxicity you are actively refusing to release.
Which is such an easy trap to fall into when you're under that much pressure.
Yeah.
It's not my fault I'm holding on to this anger. Look at what they did to me. Look at how unfair this is.
Right, it's always outward blame. But there's a hidden mechanism in this chart designed to actually save you from that trap. It's a configuration called a yod, often referred to as the finger of God.
Ooh, the finger of God. Explain how a yod actually works for us.
So a yod involves 3 planets. 2 planets form the base by making a harmonious 60-degree angle to each other. So they work together really well.
Okay.
But both of those base planets point a very awkward, tense, 150-degree angle, which is called a quincunx, toward a 3rd planet sitting at the apex. It looks like a long triangle, or literally an arrow pointing directly at a target.
And what are the specific planets forming this arrow right now?
The base is formed by Venus and Saturn, and the apex they're pointing directly at is the moon in Scorpio.
There's Saturn again, just showing up to pour the concrete.
Yes. Venus and Saturn working together at the base of this yod provide a massive, highly focused dose of emotional control and discipline. This yod acts as an energetic funnel, urging you to take radical personal responsibility for your feelings.
Wow.
It is a cosmic reminder that while you cannot control the pressure of the purge, you are in absolute control of your own reactions.
That is so empowering, actually.
It really is. You don't have to get swept up in the drama.
Yeah.
You can consciously choose to release the toxicity with maturity, grace, and discipline.
Okay, so we purge the poison.
Right.
We take responsibility for our emotions. We don't blame our ex or our boss, and we're good, right? Smooth sailing right into the weekend.
I mean, I really wish that were the case.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. But nature abhors a vacuum. Once you successfully purge all that emotional baggage during the full moon, you are left with this massive, empty space. And right now, that space is being flooded with raw, highly volatile energy courtesy of a major clash between Mars and Jupiter.
Wow. Which brings us to the fallout. This is where things get a little dangerous, right?
Dangerous is a very accurate word here. We have Mars in Aries. Now, Mars is the planet of action, impulse, and war, and Aries is its home sign, so Mars is operating at maximum strength here.
It is raw, unadulterated fire.
Exactly, and Mars is approaching a square, which is a hard 90-degree frictional angle with Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. Its entire job is to act like a magnifying glass, making literally whatever it touches 10 times bigger.
Oh my gosh, so you are mixing raw, impulsive anger with massive, unchecked expansion.
It is the spark meeting the gas leak.
Wow.
A tiny, seemingly insignificant spark of annoyance this week can so easily turn into a massive, uncontrolled wildfire.
That's terrifying.
You might think you're just snapping at your partner over leaving a coffee cup on the counter, and suddenly you are in the middle of a bridge-burning, relationship-ending explosion because Jupiter took that tiny spark of Mars anger and blew it completely out of proportion.
And it's vital to note that this isn't just a personal internal energy. Like when you have Mars squaring Jupiter, the volatility scales up to the collective too.
Absolutely.
Looking at this on a mundane global level, this specific geometry often correlates with significant volatility involving aviation, high-speed transport, and even prominent public figures.
Yes, it's a very unstable window.
So it's a window of time that demands you stay deeply aware of your surroundings and just exercise physical caution. Don't speed, don't pick fights with strangers in traffic, just dial it back.
Just breathe. Yes.
But here's my big question. We're dealing with explosive, magnified anger. We have radical new Gemini ideas flying at our heads at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And we've just gone through a deep, exhausting, emotional Scorpio purge. Where is the safety valve for the listener? How do we possibly land this plane without the wings ripping off?
Well, the universe always provides a counterweight. Always. And the relief valve arrives at the very end of the week.
Thank goodness.
Right. On Sunday, Mercury, the planet that governs our mind, our thoughts, and our nervous system, finally leaves the high-speed, fiery chaos of Aries and moves into the slow, steady sign of Taurus.
Oh, thank goodness. Back to the Earth.
Exactly. After days of rapid-fire Gemini thoughts, intense Scorpio emotions, and Mars-Jupiter explosions, Mercury in Taurus physically grounds our minds.
We really need that.
It forces the nervous system to literally slow down. We stop operating on pure adrenaline and survival instincts, and we start looking at the practical, tangible reality of our lives again.
Right.
We budget our resources, we physically go outside and touch the grass, we cook a good solid meal, we get out of the mental storm and back into our physical bodies.
That sounds incredibly comforting, just letting the dust settle.
It is the grounding cord we all desperately need. Furthermore, earlier in the week, there's a powerful conjunction between Mercury and Chiron.
Remind us about Chiron.
So Chiron is the wounded healer asteroid. It represents our deepest vulnerabilities, but also our greatest capacity for actual healing.
How does that conjunction play out practically for people?
Well, because Mercury rules communication, this conjunction suggests that simply speaking your pain aloud will be immensely healing. The mechanics of it are fascinating, really.
How so?
When you vocalize pain, you are literally moving the energy from your emotional body, vibrating it through your vocal cords, and releasing it into the physical world as sound waves.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Even if you don't have a therapist or a friend available to listen, go outside. Speak your frustrations to a tree. Tell your pet exactly why you are upset.
I love the mechanics of that. Just vocalizing the pain initiates the healing process. You don't necessarily need someone to offer you a solution or fix it. You just need the poison to not be locked inside of your body anymore. The act of articulation is the act of release.
It is the perfect complement to the Scorpio purge. Let it out of the mind, let it out of the body, and let it go.
So let's pull all of these threads together because it's a lot. We are stepping into a massive paradigm shift. We are kicking off a brand new 7-year cycle, learning to embrace the lightning-fast electric upgrades of Uranus and Gemini, and we had to do it without resisting the new software.
Right, no spinning wheels of death.
Exactly. We were navigating a brilliant but intense relationship roller coaster as Venus takes us sequentially from a sudden mental spark through deep empathy into raw karmic passion and finally demanding grounded Saturnian commitment.
And amidst all of that rewiring, we are bravely facing the cosmic digestive purge of the Scorpio full moon.
The large intestine at work.
Exactly. We are flushing out the toxic habits and dead-end dynamics we've stubbornly held onto. And we are actively guarding against the explosive magnified temper trap of that Mars-Jupiter clash, just waiting for Sunday's grounding Taurus energy to finally bring us back to Earth.
It is a week that demands immense self-awareness, but it also offers profound structural transformation if you are willing to actually do the work. Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener, to carry into the days ahead.
Yes. So if Uranus and Gemini is demanding that you learn a completely new, flexible, high-speed way to communicate and process information over the next 7 years,
Yeah.
what old, stubborn, outdated Taurus belief do you need to leave behind in the Scorpio full moon's purge right now, just to make room for it? Because you cannot board the bullet train if you're still trying to drag a heavy freight car behind you.
That is the absolute perfect question to end on. You know, when you break a bone, the x-ray is clear, the fix is obvious, and the healing is completely straightforward. But when the cosmos demands an upgrade to your soul's operating system, the work is completely invisible. It is messy, and it is entirely up to you to recognize and let go of the old code. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take this insight, leave the heavy baggage behind, and we will see you next time.